Alright, so welcome back. This is the second part of the tutorial for geoprocessing, and in the second section we're going to be using the geoprocessing options for clipping. We're going to be merging layers and then calculating geometry, and then using a basic stats tool to determine the full extent of the property that needs to be a fire break and cleared for a fire break. Okay, so let's crack on with that. Alright, just to explain again why we're doing this, we need to clip out the buffer that falls outside of our property, because it's not relevant to our calculation at the end of the day. So we're going to use a polygon layer to clip features that fall within our property. So that's what we'll do now. So if we just turn on our break zone layer, this is the polygon we're going to clip with. So let's just activate it in the table of contents, and then use your selection tool to select it, and then that will be the select, or the feature that we're going to clip with. So we can do that now. From the geoprocessing menu, under the vector menu, geoprocessing tools, select clip, and then our input layer is going to be buffer. This is the layer we want to clip, and then the layer we're going to clip with is our break zones. Our break zones layer, that's the one we want to clip with, and we're going to save it as a new file. So save to file, and this one we're going to call clipped. Select save. Alright, we're going to add it to the view, so let's leave that option checked and click run. It's going to use the same CRS, that is fine, we're not worried. There are layers in here that don't have the same CRS, but in this instance it's fine, we've got the right one selected, so let's click yes. Right, so a new layer called clipped is added to the view, and we can see the effect of our clip by dragging this right to the top. Let's drag it on top of all these layers and see what it is. Right, so it's done exactly what we hoped. It's only clipped the layers inside of our property boundary, so we can use them for the area calculation. So there's a couple layers now which are starting to clutter up our table of contents. So this is not much at the moment, but if you've got a big project going forward, every time you create a layer that you want to use for geoprocessing to create a new layer, is just going to start making your table of contents and your project a bit busy. So we're going to delete a couple of these layers now. So the buffer layer we're going to delete. The buffer 2 layer we still need to use. That one's going to get merged to our clipped layer. What else do we need to take away? These farm features that can take that away as well. And also our lines from polygons. Okay, we took that away earlier. So these 2 layers are the ones we're going to take away. So select them in the table of contents, right click, and then say remove. Click OK, and they're gone out of our project now, so they're not going to be in the way anymore. Right, and the other thing we'll do is just deselect our selected layers, and we're going to merge layers. So yeah, on this next step we're going to merge the buffered layers into one layer so that we can calculate the total areas that need to be cleared. So from the vector menu we're going to select the data management tools and the option that says merge vector layers. So select that now, and the layers to merge, we're going to select 2 layers to merge. So select layers to merge, and they are buffer 2 and clipped. And click OK. And then we're going to save it as a new layer. So let's save to file, and our same output projects. We're just going to call this new layer merged buffers. And click save. We're going to add it to our view afterwards. So let's leave that option checked. Click run. and the merged layer is added to the table of contents. You can see it's this new purple layer now. So like we've done before, we can turn these layers off or delete them because we're not going to need them going forward. So I'm just going to remove them from my view. So buffers 2 and the clipped layer, select them, right click and click remove, and they are gone. Right, so we're reaching the final stages, and what we need to do is calculate the area and perimeter for this new merged layer. So we're going to select the geometry tools for that. So from the vector menu, select geometry tools and export and add geometry, which is second from the bottom, and the input layer is going to be merged, and we're going to use the layer CRS, and we're going to save it as a new file. So let's say save to file, and this one's name is going to be Firebreak. So up until now, a lot of the layer names we've chosen have just been buffer, clipped, etc. So these are they're named after the geoprocessing function which we used for them. In this instance, this is a final layer, so I'm calling it Firebreak because it's the final buffers merged, with the geometry calculated. So it's the Firebreak layer, and that's going to be the one which ends up being the one we use in our final project when we're calculating. So let's say save, and we're going to add it to our view, click run, and we can go and have a look at this layer. So QGIS automatically names it, gives it a name for the table of contents, but if you right click and you look at the properties and go to general, you'll see that it is still called Firebreak. So here it sits in the Firebreak, in the output folder called Firebreak. I think it's just for simplicity, or just to keep you aware of what layer it is, that QGIS give it the name of the geoprocessing function that you just used. So if we right click on that layer and we say open attribute table, and make this a little bit bigger, we'll see there's a couple new fields which have been added, area 1 and perimeter 1, and those are the total areas in meters squared for each of the features. Okay, so this is in meters squared, as I mentioned. If you wanted to convert that to hectares, you would need to divide each of these values by the relevant value to convert it to hectares. There's 10,000 square meters in a hectare, so you would need to divide each of these by 10,000 to get to the hectares for each of these features. You can do that by creating a new field and then just using a calculator. What we're going to do is we just want to sum the total for the areas, and we're going to use that using a basic stats tool. So let's close this attribute table, and then if we go to our vector menu, we're going to use something called the basic stats tool, but there's two, one for text fields and then one for numeric fields. We want to use the basic stats for numeric fields. Select that one now, and it's pre-selected the last layer that was added, so we're going to use that one, and now we just need to choose the right field. So it's area 1. We're not going to bother about creating a new file, we'll just click run. Here we go, so this pops up with basic stats for that query, and we've got a total sum. So this is all for area 1 field. We've got a total sum here of what is it? 341,958, which, if we divide it by 10,000, would work out to 34.19 hectares, or 34.2 hectares. So if we had some guys coming to clear our Firebreak and they charged per hectare, and they wanted to tell us that it was going to cost us 1,000 Rand per hectare, then in this instance we would have to times 1,000 by 34.2 hectares, so it's going to cost us 34,000 Rand to clear the Firebreak. Just an example, no idea if those figures are anywhere near what people would charge to clear. I guess there's a whole lot of other variables that would influence that as well, but that's basically how this little tutorial has been set up, just to show you how the geoprocessing tools work. There's a lot of other geoprocessing tools in there, and you just need to maybe sit down and think about which ones you might need or use. It's always good just to fiddle around, create a few new layers, use the union, use a bunch of tools and see what happens. And you'll soon get the hang of which tools you're going to need to create a final layer, or in doing your spatial analysis. Yeah, so that's pretty much it for this tutorial. Hope it's been helpful. Give me a shout if you have any issues. I just opened my tutorial PDF here, just to show you guys again. If you want to redo this tutorial, you can refresh that tutorial data. I'm going to give you guys the PDF, or you should have the PDF already. Just run through this to get your tutorial back to its original state, and then you can run through it again. Right, thanks guys. Catch up later. Cheers.